Woke up, took a deep breath, realized I was suffocating from real niggerism. I ain't even have to eat yet, got a full plate, recognizing they don't recognize my rhythm. Tell the devil he can eat a dick. Real spit, that's lit, I know, cause I'm bugged while he's down on his luck. Spill his guts with village rust, been eating us for lunch fast, 4,795 months. But we finna take over for the 9-9. One sip for all glass, slipper in the jaw. Lady liberties are trying to gotta kick in the balls. About just cause, every beast has balls or claws. But us can't even call for help. All we have is so-called knowledge yourself. Even that's manufactured, whole quiet is kept. More money, more problems, we acquire more debt. Generational wealth is at the bottom of a well. Solitary confinement in a mighty cold cell. In a land which no man dwell. All the violence being felt. Neck harness with a noose, whip back full of wealth. From the terror in your eyes to the vision of the youth. Deformed, be born, about to see 4 units in the city in a drop. That's Nino. Separate your wig from your scalp. That's chemo. Sabi, no weed, no molly. Act bevo, lottie. That Hollywood shit is for the birds. Frankly, I'm really perturbed. Doesn't anyone serve the people that deserve a hero reserved and regal immersed in evil in a place with a race that emerged. Illegal got zero tolerance for ego tolerance. I see no progress. Why we so complicated? Cold day in hell when this hell freezes over you. The only thing colder is the stare of a warrior. The tell is hella watered down. The truth is always warrior. Endure to the end, even when the lies in the den and it's time to make amends. Glass ceilings brassing over. My profession is connected with the shot eyes. Yeah, I used to hot box, smacking like some pop rods, running like a stopwatch. Everything top notch when they wanna hopscotch, flip flop. Listen like some titties out of crop top. City on clock. Nigga know a nigga talking patois. Everybody back off. 3, 2, 1, finna blast off. Drop a bitch, how they do it in a dance hall. WWE on the freak, J Dez want the beat, so it's always heat. No, we always eat good. Fleetwood making out of each hood. Holy is the priesthood, superior to preachers, fucking let them drink blood. The condition of my people, he's an emo for religion, and the alternate opinion is an enemy of God. Been raped, robbed, murdered, forgot. With a victim mentality, we created a facade with the makeup on. It's a ruse, barrage, abused by the blase blob. This is all they fault, this is all they fault. By they, I mean white folk, Caucasians, cavemen. The synagogue of Satan is a fine dog, is blazing. I'm a stoke it in the mind. I was high, you do slaying niggas going Super Saiyan, growing beards. It's amazing. Go to church, that's pagan, that cross, that hangman, a cranium for maintaining all dethroned. But to break that mold, I rip the soul out with a switchblade. Let it know not to be bitch made. You'll find out on this day. It's the Lord's battle, so shit take. A cold day in hell when this hell freezes over you. The only thing colder is the stare of a warrior. The tell is hella watered down. The truth is always warrior. Endure to the end, even when the lies in the den and it's time to make amends. Take a second, we reflecting with the light, but this the life, I fucking love it. Wouldn't trade it to be white, nah that's alright. I got the right at birth, the devil's redefining worth.
Someday you'll pay the price.
No, I don't break a fold, I need and bake the dough, then recreate the flow. They think they making dough, what they forsake is so essential. Over lentils, get your issue. Guess who's on this instrumental with you? A damn if we was family, view unread and call it spam. I'm not a fan of Antichrist, they slayed the man. I swayed the Tim like here I am, the son of Sam is taking shots at David Berkowitz. Pussy.
Someday you'll pay the price.
A different discipline existed in this New York state of mind. Say sin, not no, not the actor, but the year he's effort. Not one thing in mind to grind until this gavel turns his words to mirth from Babel. Since 69, I follow protocol. This kingdom built on God bones, so I can't love Esau, and I can't fuck with y'all. I ain't gotta say it twice, you vouching for the enemy, but
someday you'll pay the price.
Look, My father ain't have a father cause of dope, I'm anti-politics. Cause Christ died from a vote. How the richest nation locked the homeless up for being cold. How ironic they relating smoking weed to getting stoned. You trim your ways and seek they love. I'ma bring this sword back wet with a vesta dipped in blood. Niggas giving up when they don't even give enough. Going nowhere fast, niggas always in a rush. I give them love cause my brothers lost. Christians eating, watch they brothers starve. No way I can serve another God. I give my love cause my brothers lost. Christians eating, watch they brothers starve. I can't serve another God. Cold-blooded.
You know that you are as cold as ice to me. You know that you are.
All right. Shalom. Girl, you live with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Priest and Captain Soccer War holding down the class live from Memphis, Tennessee. I see that's the problem right there. Every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we have classes here in Memphis from 6 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Since 1969, the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge has been teaching so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians the truth according to the Bible. What is the truth? Truth is that so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians descend from the greatest people that have ever walked the face of the earth. The Bible identifies us as the lost 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. And in the year 2026, there's nothing more important than for God shows them people to learn the truth of who we are, where we come from, and what our purpose is on this earth. What we like to do with these classes is go into this book called the Bible to give brothers and sisters an opportunity to learn, to gain the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that's necessary for us to come back to being the people the Most High called us to be, so we could reclaim our righteous place on the earth as kings, priests, princesses, and daughters of Zion. With that being said, we like to start the classes off with questions. If any brothers and sisters have questions online, all you got to do is type them in. If you have questions in the room, all you got to do is raise your hand. If there aren't any questions, then we'll go ahead and get into the topic of tonight's class. Y'all see, I tried to do the virtual background where you could have a, you see the whole inside of my office right here, but it doesn't work well with my setup that I have. So, I'm trying to find a way to get the class looking more how UP Clay classes look. But with this camera angle that I have and the setup that I got, this is what we have. You know what I'm saying? I've tried various angles. If I zoom the camera out too much, y'all see too much of the room. I got the fleur de lis on the wall up there. I got the two swords crossing, you know what I'm saying? I got a small desk that I'm utilizing right now. It's not the typical podium we have in the UPK where I got all of the ornaments set up, you know what I'm saying? That's why you don't see that visual. So I tried to go with the virtual background today, but it's slowing the visual up. So I'm just gonna go with the typical view that I've been utilizing. All right. But yeah, we'd like to start the classes off with questions. If there are no questions, then we'll get into the topic of tonight's class. What you see on the screen is the fruit of the forbidden tree. We're going to talk about what took place in the Garden of Eden in today's class. We can go back into Genesis, the second chapter, with the Lord forming Adam and with giving him the warning of not eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. We'll go into Eve and her being beguiled by the serpent and really get an understanding of what the conditions that existed in the garden that made it so that Adam and Eve were able to be tricked by the serpent. There was something that was not present in the Garden of Eden that we have present with us today that can help us not make the mistake that Adam and Eve made. And when you understand what we're going to break down in class today concerning what was not present in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve, you'll understand a little bit of why the Bible stresses the importance of a thing that we all have today that helps us to obey the Most High and to keep the law, statutes, and commandments. You understand? So I don't see any questions. We'll go ahead and get into that topic of tonight's class. So again, if you're taking notes like you should be with these classes, you want to title this "The Fruit of the Forbidden Tree." All right. Or actually, a better title, which is the one that I have in my notes, is "Naked and Not Ashamed." That's what should have been the title of the class tonight. I messed that up. The title of the class should be "Naked and Not Ashamed," but you could also put "The Fruit of the Forbidden Tree." All right. So we're gonna start at Genesis chapter 2. We're gonna go to verse 15. All right, Genesis chapter 2, verse 15. And I remember before I came into the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, I had read the Bible, pretty much front to back, right? And it's such a vague memory that I have of me reading the Bible because what I did know at that time is that there was a lot that I did not know. You understand? And in my search for the truth, I knew that I would know that I found the truth when I found someone that could answer the questions that I had about what I didn't understand in the Bible. And one of the first questions that I had when I read the Bible all those years ago as a young man was here in the book of Genesis. It was in Genesis, I believe, the 4th or 5th chapter with Cain and Abel. And my question that I had was, if Adam and Eve were the first two people on earth, how did Cain go to a city that was already named Nod and find him a wife? And I remember when I was searching for the truth, when I was in the Christian church, I asked that question. Nobody had an answer. When I went into the Muslim mosque and I asked that question, nobody had an answer. When I started studying, Egyptology and all these metaphysical religions and all these different belief systems that were out there, I would ask everybody about Adam and Eve and Cain finding a city that was named already and getting a wife, and no one could answer it. It wasn't until I came into the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge under commanding General Yohana. I sat in the school down there in D.C., and General Katham was teaching the class. And I asked a question about Adam and Eve and the city of Nod, and General Katham gave me the breakdown on Adam and Eve and how they were not the first two people on the planet Earth. And that answer that General Katham gave me in class that day let me know that this was the place where I was going to learn the truth about the Bible, where I was going to learn the truth about God. And I thank the Most High for that question and for the answer that General Katham was able to give me, because I have known that this was the home of the truth since then. And it's topics like the one that we're going to cover tonight, topics like the one we went through yesterday with the baptized by fire. You're only going to get that knowledge and understanding in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. You're not going to be able to understand the scriptures and get the insight of how to apply this to your life outside of the ISUPK. You understand? And it's because the Holy Spirit dwells here. You understand? Learning that this is the truth that you need to learn in order to gain the Holy Spirit. This is the truth that you need to learn in order to understand the Bible and to unlock the meaning of salvation and of obedience and of righteousness. Outside of the knowledge, you understand, of the truth, you cannot obtain the knowledge and the understanding of any of those other things that are very vital to living a life that is pleasing to the Most High. Everybody understands. And so this breakdown tonight is one that comes from this knowledge and wisdom that the Lord has given us under commanding General Yohana and the ISUPK. All right, so this is again Genesis. We're going to start at Genesis chapter 2 and verse 15. All right. So this is Genesis 2 and 15. It says, "And the Most High power," you see the word Lord God there. If you read it in Hebrew, that word Lord is the Most High's name. That word God is Elohim. You understand? It's the Most High power. Yahweh Elohim is the Most High our God, or Yahweh Elohim, or Yahweh Allah. Yahweh Elohim is the Lord God. Everybody understands. So when I read Lord God, I'm going to say the Most High power. So everybody understands, all right? So this is Genesis 2 and 15. "And the Most High power took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it." What was the Garden of Eden? The Garden of Eden was the choicest part of the earth at the time when humans were created. Mankind was made on the earth, and there was a part of the earth where everything was made available. You know what I'm saying? There was fruits, there was vegetables, there was, fresh water, clean air, grass to lay upon. Everything that man needed to have a good life was available in the garden. And that's where the Most High placed Adam after he rose him up and gave him knowledge. You understand? So the Most High placed Adam in the garden. And let's keep reading. He took dress it and to keep it, meaning what? To put it in order. The very first place where man began to have order on the earth was in the Garden of Eden. Everything outside of the garden was in disarray. There was no one that had the knowledge and the understanding and the meaning of life and to know what to do and what not to do. Outside of the garden, people were living how people live in the world today. Eating and drinking and having sex with whatever they want. They were just living their own life, doing what came instinctual to them. The garden and where the Lord placed Adam was the first place that man began to establish order and structure in the earth. All right, verse 16, and the Most High Power commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat. You understand? But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. Now, here's what is important to understand about the Garden of Eden and about the trees that are in the garden. The trees that are in the Garden of Eden are not literal trees. The trees that are in the Garden of Eden are other nations of people. You understand? It's other cultures, other belief systems, other ways of life. These are the trees that are in the Garden of Eden. So the Lord said to Adam, man, you could go and take of the fruit of all of these trees, meaning what? You can go and learn and expand your knowledge and your understanding of the world. You can go and dive into all of these things that are here in the garden, except for the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. There was one thing that the Lord forbid Adam from learning. There was one limitation that the Lord placed in the garden, and it was for Adam to learn what could be learned from this tree. You understand? And this tree, again, is it's not a literal tree. It's a culture, a way of life. It's the fruit is it's learning and understanding. It's knowledge. It's mental. You understand? So Adam is in the Garden of Eden, and the Lord put him there to establish order. But also in this garden, there are other people who are living their lives, and they don't have the knowledge that Adam has. They don't have the understanding that Adam has. And the Lord said, I want you to put this place in order. I want you to be the one that instructs everybody on what's right and what's wrong in this place. And as you encounter the trees in this garden, there's going to be different stuff going on. It's going to have different ways of doing things and different thoughts and different ideologies and philosophies, different ways of life. And you can dive into them and you can understand them and see what they got going on. But there is one thing that you are not allowed to learn, and that was the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. What that tree of knowledge of good and evil was, we'll get into as we go further. But I want to establish that the story of Adam and Eve in the garden is largely metaphoric and it's figurative and metaphoric. It's not literal. A lot of what you read in the book of Genesis, from Genesis 2 to 6, is largely like the book of Revelations. It's a lot of it's not visions. I'm trying to explain it. It's not literal. It's figurative. It's metaphoric. You understand? As we get into it further, you're going to understand the serpent in the garden was metaphor. Eve being made of Adam's rib was metaphor. Adam being formed of the dust of the earth is metaphor. All of it is metaphoric. So Adam in the garden with the trees all around, the trees are metaphoric. They're not literal trees. They are nations and races of people with their cultures and their understanding and their knowledge of the world. The Lord said you could learn of all these trees. You could eat of the fruit of all these trees, learn and understand what they believe and what they think and how they live. But from this tree, you are not to learn. Everybody understands? So let's go ahead and get into it a little bit further. Let's drop down from Genesis chapter 2 and 17, and let's skip forward to Genesis 2 and 21. All right, and this is the formation of Eve. Again, I'm taking you through the metaphor so you can understand what is going on in the garden before we get into the serpent and the transgression and what was missing in the garden that enabled Adam and Eve to be tricked by the serpent. All right. So this is Genesis chapter 2. We in verse 21. It says, and the Most High Power caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which the Most High Power had taken from man, made he a woman and brought her unto him, unto the man. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of the man. Everybody understands? Now, the deep sleep that fell upon Adam was not literal. How do we know that the deep sleep that fell upon Adam was not literal? Let me get prove to you that the deep sleep was not literal. All right. Hold up. Let's get Isaiah chapter 29, verse 10. Get Isaiah 29 and 10. All right. This is how you know that the deep sleep that fell upon Adam is not literal and that it is figurative. All right. Isaiah chapter 29, verse 10. It says, for the Most High has poured out upon you the spirit of deep sleep, and closed your eyes. The prophets and your rulers, the seers, has he covered. Verse 11, and the vision of all is become unto you as the words of a book that is sealed, which men deliver to one that is learned, saying, read this, I pray thee. And he saith, I cannot, for it is sealed. And the book is delivered to him that is not learned, saying, read this, I pray thee. And he saith, I am not learned. The deep sleep that fell upon Adam was a time of Adam not understanding what he was going through, what was happening in his life. Very much like our people, we have gone through a period of deep sleep where we have not known who we were. We have not known the truth about God. We have not known how we're supposed to live. We have the Bible. We were given the religion of Christianity. We were taught about a Jesus and a God that loves everybody, but yet we cannot find our way to doing what God said to do. We have not found our way to being the people that God called us to be. Why? Because we are in a deep sleep. Even though we have the Bible, we have the words, we have the religion, we can't find a way to be the people that God called us to be. Now we're receiving the truth. Now we're getting the knowledge and the understanding. And what are we doing? We're waking up. We're waking up to how we're supposed to live. We're waking up to how we're supposed to eat. We're waking up to knowing that we're supposed to keep the Passover and keep the high holy days and no longer celebrate Christmas and Thanksgiving and Valentine's Day. Before this knowledge and understanding was made available to us, we were in a deep sleep. Well, in this same vein, Adam was in a deep sleep when the Lord made Eve his wife. You understand? What was the process of Eve being taken from Adam's rib? Remember, Adam was placed in the garden and was given instructions to dress it, to put it in order. As Adam is in the Garden of Eden and he's around all these other trees with their knowledge and their understanding, Adam has the laws of God. Adam has the understanding and the wisdom that was given from the Most High. And Adam is out there teaching. Adam is interacting with other people and he's dropping the truth and telling them, nah, man, the Lord said we're not supposed to eat that. And we're not supposed to do this. And we're not supposed to do that. Well, there's a woman in Adam's family that is hearing him. This woman that's hearing him is learning from Adam and she's being drawn closer to Adam. And without Adam understanding it or knowing it, this woman that he's been teaching and been raising up becomes his wife. Adam looks up one day and realizes, damn, this sister that I've been dropping the truth on has been learning from me all these trees in the garden, all of these cultures and all of this knowledge and these different ways of life that are available. This woman wants to follow me. This woman wants to be down with what I'm down with. Adam realized that the Lord took a woman that was from his family, that was close to him, and made a wife. You understand? That's how Eve was formed. Eve was a woman that was already alive, already living. She was in the garden amongst all the other trees and all the other knowledge and the other cultures, but she was drawn to what Adam was teaching. She was drawn to how Adam was living. And as she got drawn to Adam, Adam realized this woman he had been teaching and dropping the truth on was made to be his wife. And that's why when he made her his wife, Adam said, this is back in Genesis chapter 2, verse 23. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh, and she shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. It was not literal. God didn't put a man to sleep and perform surgery and take a bone out of his side and then build a woman from the bone. That's silly. That's nonsense. That's fairy tale. The Bible is speaking in figurative, metaphoric language, describing the process of a man gaining a wife from a woman that he was just teaching the truth to. From a woman who was drawn close to him, that knew him, you understand, from way back. And he woke up one day and realized, damn, I should make this woman my wife. This is the woman that the Lord sent to be with me. Everybody understands. So that's how Eve became Adam's wife. He was dropping the truth on her. He was teaching her. And she was drawn so close that it was right that, man, I'm gonna make her my wife. And that's how they became joined together. Everybody understands. All right. So let's drop that. Let's go back to let's keep reading in Genesis chapter 2. What did Adam say furthermore? This is Genesis chapter 2 and 24. Therefore shall a man leave his father and mother, and they shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. So Adam made Eve his wife, and now they became a family. This is his family now. Whoever Adam was joined to before, the family he had in the world, they were not following him. They were not obeying the Lord and doing the things that Adam was doing. Eve was. And that is why Adam saw fit to make her his wife. And he said, man, you know what I'm saying? For this cause shall a man leave his mother and father and cleave unto his wife. Everybody understand? Now, here's the important part. Here's the important part for us to understand. Verse 25, it says, and they both were naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. You understand? Adam and Eve, when they became husband and wife, when they were joined together, both having the knowledge of the truth and obeying the Lord and having the culture and the righteousness that was given to Adam from God, they were naked, but they were not ashamed. Naked in this context is not literal. It's not they were butt naked. But they were not like anyone else in the garden. They were not covered with the leaves of the other trees in the garden. And not being covered with the leaves like all the other trees in the garden made Adam and Eve stand out. It made them different from everybody. What's the word that we use? What's the biblical word for being different from everybody? The Most High called the children of Israel to be different from everybody. Deuteronomy 7:6, the Lord said he called us to be a holy people unto himself. When the Bible says in Genesis 2 and 25 that Adam and Eve were naked and were not ashamed, the Bible is saying they were holy and they were not ashamed of it. They were proud of their culture and of their identity, being the children, being the man and woman in the garden that was obeying God. They were set apart. Good word, Officer Matabar. They understood that we not like these other trees. We don't live how they live. We don't do the things that they do. We are holy unto the Most High. We obey him, and they were not ashamed of it. They were not ashamed of being different. They were not ashamed of not eating shrimp and pork and crab. They were not ashamed of, being married to one another, even though they came from the same family. They were not ashamed of not mixing themselves among the other people and doing the things that other people did and living the way that other people lived. They were holy, and they did not feel no type of way about it. Everybody understand? It's important to understand the state of Adam and Eve when they first were together and had the knowledge of the Most High, and then to understand what changed when they transgressed the Most High and followed the serpent. So Adam and Eve, having the knowledge of the Most High, together, united, married, they were naked and were not ashamed. Now let's go and drop down to Genesis chapter 3, and we're going to start at Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. All right. This is Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. It says, now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the Most High Power had made. What does it mean he was more subtle? Meaning you could not see, okay, the other trees that's in the garden, right? These other nations, these other people in their cultures. These other people and these other trees in the garden were not ashamed of their culture. The way that you see the East Indians are not ashamed of their culture today. Yeah, they have a god with the elephant with all the arms, and they put that red dot on their head, and their men grow their beards and grow their dreadlocks. There's no shame in their culture. Those Arabs over there, they believe in that Allah and that bowing down to a rock. They wear those long dresses. Even they come to America, still wear the long dress. They are not ashamed of their culture. The Chinese with their Buddha and their God they bow down to, and the little cat in the damn store that's sitting right there by the front that they put a fruit in front of. They are not ashamed of their culture and of their gods. The serpent was not like the other trees that were in the garden. He wasn't like the other people in the garden. The serpent had a culture that was hidden. The serpent had a way of life that he did not expose to everybody. The serpent had a culture that was not something he was openly sharing with everyone. It was something that he hid away, which is why the Bible says he was the most subtle beast of all that the Lord had made. This serpent was sneaky in a way that none of the other beasts that the Lord made were sneaky. Also, that word beast is talking about, okay, let me show you that the beasts of the earth are other nations. The Bible talks about the beasts of the field. There's a context where it's speaking about animals, and there's another context where it's speaking about people. Because the book of Genesis is largely metaphoric in the beginning, this beast of the field is in relation to other nations. Let me prove that to you right here. That the serpent being the most subtle of all the beasts of the field was the serpent being most subtle of all the nations that God created, of all the people that God created. All right. Let's get let me get okay. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, this is Ezekiel chapter 34, verse 5. Everybody understands? It's Ezekiel 34 and 5, and this is the scripture that proves that the beasts of the field is talking about other nations. All right. Hold on. Hold on. Okay, here we go. So hold on. Let's Ezekiel 34. Ezekiel 34, and let's start at verse 7. All right. Ezekiel 34 and 7. It says, therefore, ye shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. As I live, saith the Most High Power, surely my flock became a prey, and my flock became meat to every beast of the field, because there was no shepherd. Neither did my shepherds search for my flock, but the shepherds fed themselves and fed not my flock. Everybody understands? The metaphor here is the Lord is talking about Israel as sheep and our leaders as shepherds. And because the shepherds did not watch over the flock became meat to the beasts of the field. Now, the beasts of the field are what? All carnivores, wolves and lions and snakes and vultures and all the animals that eat other animals. But if the children of Israel are sheep in this metaphor, the beasts of the field are the other nations. And that's what the Lord is talking about here in Ezekiel 34. There's plenty of other examples of the Lord describing Israel as sheep and describing our enemies as beasts of the field. That is what is happening in Genesis, the 3rd chapter. The serpent being the most subtle of all the beasts of the field, meaning he's the most sneaky of all the other people that are on the earth. All the other people living at the time that Adam and Eve encountered the serpent was the most subtle. Everybody understands. Now that we got that, let's go back to Genesis chapter 3. We're gonna go now to verse 2. Let me read verse 1 again. So Genesis 3:1. Now the serpent was the most subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, has the Most High said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, the Most High has said, Ye shall not touch it, you shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. For the Most High does know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. You understand? Now, there's a couple things that you need to understand about all the trees in the garden that Adam and Eve had access to. These are the trees in the garden. They in the garden like everything else is in the garden. And the Most High put Adam in the garden because the Most High wanted Adam to partake of all the things that were good for man to partake in on the earth. Meaning what? He wanted Adam to have all the experiences and to be able to partake in all the things that make life enjoyable. Part of that is interacting with other cultures. Part of that is interacting with other people and learning and understanding and gaining a respect from one another. These other nations that were in the garden, these other trees, the Lord said, man, you could learn, you could understand what they do and how they live and interact with them, and it's not a problem, except for that tree that's in the middle of the garden. That tree that's in the middle of the garden is the one that you cannot learn from. It's the one that you cannot interact with. Why? Because the tree that was in the middle of the garden was prominent. You understand? It was the influential tree in the garden. It was the one that stood out more than everyone else. And that's why the Lord warned Adam against it, because what exists in this prominent tree that is in the middle of the garden that stands out more than all the other trees is the thing that I don't want you to become. It's what I don't want you to learn of. And it's very similar to how we exist in this world today, where there's other trees and other cultures and other nations and other people living their life. But there's one culture that is being forced on everyone else. There's one way of life that's being pushed to the four corners of the earth. And that is the ways of our oppressor in this world today. You understand? The Chinese never went out and conquered and murdered in the name of Buddha. You understand? They didn't have to make everybody become Buddhites and worship the Buddha religion. The Africans in their many villages with their many different gods never set out and conquered and unalived people in the name of their, alligator god or their river god. They live and they worship whatever they worship in their land. The East Indians never went out and conquered everybody and made everybody bow down to Shiva. You understand? But when our oppressor rose to power in the earth, he went out and conquered everybody and made everybody bow down and believe in the image, you understand, of Caesar Borgia. made everybody convert their belief and say that the white man was God, that the white man was Jesus. They painted themselves as the image of everything great and mighty of all the nations. That's what the tree in the midst of the garden was in the days of Adam. And what have we found lies underneath the culture of our oppressor, the culture that's being pushed on everybody around the earth? It's a culture of oppression. It's a culture of, understand, everything that is evil and unnatural that goes against God. On the surface, our oppressor seems to be wonderful and holy and everything great, and technology and all the good things come from America. But what's going on really? What is the culture of America really? The culture of America is Jeffrey Epstein. The culture of America is the Roman agoge. You understand? Our oppressor's culture is built on homosexuality. It's built on pedophilia. It's built on, sex trafficking children and women. It's built on lies. It's built on incest. It's built on everything horrible and evil. That was the tree in the midst of the garden. That was the fruit that the Lord never wanted Adam and Eve to partake of, because to learn of that would put you against the Lord, put you in opposition to the Most High. Everybody understands? The tree of the knowledge of good and evil was the knowledge of how the serpent and his people lived. And Adam and Eve were never meant to learn and understand this. How do you sum up the culture of our oppressor? How do you sum up the culture of the serpent that was in the midst of, and the serpent and the tree that was in the midst of the garden? You sum up their culture with with 3 words: rebellion against God. Rebellion against God is the culture of white people. Everything that God says, the white man's culture is the opposite. You cannot obey God and be a part of the culture of America. You cannot partake in the culture of our oppressor and obey God. And this was what God warned Adam against in the garden. All these trees, all this knowledge, all this understanding that you could just learn, you can learn it. But do not learn from the tree in the midst of the garden. Do not accept their way of life. Do not learn their way of life, because their way of life is going to cause you to disobey me. Now, how can I prove this? Let's keep reading. You understand? So this is Genesis chapter 3, verse 6. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat. What did Eve do? Eve listened to the serpent. And Eve looked at the tree and saw that they were living beautifully. Oh man, they had, wealth and power, and they looked like they were having a good time, having parties, and just it seemed on the outside like it was just such a wonderful place. When you're poor and growing up in the Black community, Hispanic community, the lives that white people are living look so just wonderful. It looks nice. You look on the TV and you watch Leave It to Beaver and Dennis the Menace and the different shows we grew up watching. And, being white people's lives look wonderful. Looks amazing on the outside. But those of us who were able to spend, get into that world of our oppressor and be close to them, you get a close look at their lives and you realize, man, this is something wrong is going on here. I was that kid that grew up in the Black community, and I went to school with white kids. I went to school with Asians. I went to school with East Indians, and I was cool with them in middle school. My best friends in middle school, I had a brother from El Salvador. There was a Jewish cat, and there was an East Indian cat. We was all best friends, and we used to take turns going to each other's houses and spending the nights and doing little things. And I remember being at that East Indian cat's house. His mother was a doctor. His father was a lawyer. And I remember his father used to beat his mother up. I remember being over there and his parents getting to arguing, and they, we had to leave out the house. And I remember him in confiding in us that his mother used to his father used to beat his mother, beat him and his brother real bad. And it wasn't because of their grades or whatever, but it was just that was their culture. Things don't go right, they take it out on the family. The Jewish cat that I was best friends with, there wasn't necessarily nothing evil going on in his house, but we knew of other kids who were being molested, whose family, whose parents were doing things to them. I remember it was a cat we went to school with. There was a girl that I was in my grade. Her older brother was like a senior. We were like 8th grade. This chick's brother was like a senior. And I remember we all found out that he took his little sister to a high school party, and had his friends run a train on her. And it was a horrible thing to learn. Like, damn, why would her brother set her up to get a train ran on her? And it was real odd and strange. But as I grow up and I'm a man and I look back, someone was being molested in their house. It was an evil, horrible house they was living in. And that is what the side of our oppressors that we don't get to see. Their culture is one that is built on pedophilia and molestation and sexual trauma in ways you can't imagine. That is their culture. It's not like it's a unique thing. It's not like it's 1 in a million or 1 in 1,000. It's almost every one of them, every one of their households. It's the Roman and the Greek custom. It's their culture. It's how they've always lived. They grape and molest and do sexual trauma to their children. You understand? And on the outside, looking in, it looks wonderful. It looks fun. I know those Epstein parties look fun. Oh, man, the Epsteins and the island, man, there's girls running around at Playboy Mansion. Oh, man, there's girls running around, they naked. You go in there and have sex, man. You go in a room and get it in. Then you get there and find out that in this room, there's sex being had, but there's no women. Yikes. You go in a room and there's stroking and bodies and oil, and you look around and there's no broads in there. What? You go to, you go to acting classes and take acting classes. You get in the gym and you work out and you get all strong and your body get all cut. And you go to the audition and it's a man in a room and a couch. And you go in there and you want the role. Well, we have a certain look we're looking for. We need to, take your shirt off. Let us see your body. Let us look at you. Let us, this and that and that and this. And, well, this is the scene where you're going to have to do this and do that. I need you to demonstrate to me how well you can, get into character. And next thing you know, you're grabbing your ankles and some man is inside of you and you're a big time Hollywood star now. Now you're a celebrity. Now you at the top. You understand? And all of this puts you in violation against God. All of this puts you in rebellion against the Most High. And that is what the Most High did not want Adam and Eve to partake in. He did not want them to partake in breaking of his laws and going against what he taught them. You understand? And that is what the serpent was selling to Eve. The serpent was selling to Eve, man, them laws he gave you could break that. You're not going to die. You'll live good. God is holding you back from how great you can be. God is holding you back from how much you can enjoy life. The dream that's being sold to us right now about our oppressors' culture and way of life is that somehow it's better than serving God. Somehow joining them and being an oppressor is better than being the oppressed and waiting and hoping on God. The lie and the dream is that America is the greatest place that has ever existed on the earth. And if America falls, there's nothing but hell and horror and torment that comes after. Not realizing that, blocking you from understanding that when America falls, Christ's kingdom rises. We could have a kingdom of God's righteousness in full effect where we don't abuse one another. We don't take advantage of one another. We don't oppress each other, but we all live together and everybody has what they need because we all following the laws of God. That is what they try to block you from. That's what the serpent did to Eve in the garden. Blocked her from understanding that her life was already perfect. She already was wise and already was living a good life. She already was like God because she had the knowledge to keep her and her husband naked and not ashamed. Eve got tricked out of righteousness, got tricked out of being holy, and she got tricked into being a part of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. She got tricked into being a part of the culture that was in rebellion against God. Now let's keep reading. I'm going to prove everything I'm saying. All right. So Eve looked at the tree and considered what the serpent said and said, yeah, man, they look like they having fun. They living a good life. I want to partake. And she joined in the culture. She learned of the culture and the way of life of the serpent and the tree that was in the midst of the garden. And she came and told Adam and got Adam to join her in eating the things that were unlawful. You understand? And who getting high and smoking drugs and being intoxicated and, you understand, doing things that God had told them never to do. And as they are living this life and joining the culture and the people, learning of the ways of the tree that was in the midst of the garden, this is what happened. This is let's read Genesis chapter 3, verse 6. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food and that it was pleasant to the eyes and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat. Her eating of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is not physical. It's not biting into an apple. It's not, eating a pomegranate. It's gaining, it's food for thought. It's learning and understanding this culture and this way of life, and then saying to yourself, that's not so bad. I could see myself living that way. I could see myself doing that. I could see myself eating these things and celebrating these holidays. Yeah, I could break away from what we used to do because this way seems better. This way seems more wise. That was the fruit that Eve ate of. She learned of that culture and that way of life and said, hey, man, I think this is better than what we've been doing. And she came and told Adam, baby, I want you to join me in on something, man. I've discovered something that is the key to life. It's unlocked a pleasure that I've never understood before. It's unlocked a joy that I never experienced. And she got Adam to join her. Adam joined in the thing that Eve had gotten herself into, becoming a part of partaking of the fruit of the tree that was in the midst of the garden, joining in the culture and the way of life of the people of the serpent. And here's what the result was. Verse 7, and the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. Now, because they joined the culture of the serpent, because they learned of the way of life of the tree that was in the midst of the garden, they looked around and realized, damn, we naked. And this naked made them ashamed. This naked was no longer them being holy. This naked was now them being like everybody else. And they realized, damn, we don't have anything to cover us. We don't have anything to hide our shame. We don't have anything to make us feel confident and comfortable that the way we're living is the right way. You understand? Adam and Eve went from being holy, naked, and unashamed to now having joined the serpent and their evil and being naked and ashamed. And in their nakedness and in that shame, what was the first thing that they sought to do? Keep reading in Genesis chapter 3. Now we're at the end of verse 7. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. You understand? They took leaves from the trees that were in the garden and tried to cover themselves. They tried to put on somebody else's culture. They tried to hide themselves among the other nations and blend in with everybody else doing what they were doing, rather than stand out like they were before. You understand? What Adam and Eve did, well, I'm going to keep reading. There was something missing in the garden that Adam and Eve did not have, that they gained after joining themselves in the culture of the fruit of in the culture of the tree that was in the midst of the garden. There's something that became real to them that was not real to them before when they joined in the culture and partook of the fruit of the tree that they were warned not to partake of. And we're going to read it in this next verse. This is Genesis chapter 3, verse 8. And they heard the voice of the Lord of the Most High Power walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Most High amongst the trees of the garden. Adam and Eve hid among the other nations. They tried to blend in with the other people. What does it mean they heard the voice of the Most High Power walking in the garden? Hearing the voice of the Most High Power walking in the garden would be like hearing the truth after you left it. Imagine you in the truth and you leave and you go back into church and you go back into Christianity and, you forget all about this time that you dedicated to serving the Lord and obeying him. And then one day you out shopping and you hear somebody on the street saying, God called us to be his people. We the chosen people of the Lord. We shouldn't be, eating pork and we shouldn't be eating shrimp. You hear that somebody speaking the truth and you like, man, what the? It shocks you. And you don't want to deal with the shame of being covered in this other culture, having turned your back on the righteousness of the Lord and you try to hide from it. That's what happened with Adam and Eve in the garden. You understand? The truth that the Lord had given to Adam, the knowledge that the Lord had given to Adam, it came back, you understand, to Adam and Eve while they were in the garden. While they were in the midst of doing their evil, they heard the word of the Lord. And hearing the word of the Lord reminded them that they had disobeyed, reminded them that they had done something that they were commanded not to do. And they did not want to face it, so they tried to hide. Everybody understands? Again, it's metaphoric. All of this is metaphor. You read it and you think, how the voice of the Lord walking. You understand? It's metaphor. Everybody understands. So let's keep reading. Verse 9. And the Most High Power called unto Adam and said unto him, where art thou? Adam, man, where you at? I'm in the garden. I'm looking for you I'm looking for you to be doing what you're supposed to be doing. I'm looking for you to be living holy, to be keeping my laws, to be teaching. Where are you at, Adam? Adam was not to be found. You understand? And when the Lord called for Adam, verse 9. So like in verse 9, and the Most High Power called unto Adam and said unto him, where art thou? Verse 10, and he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. Adam said, I heard you, and I was afraid. And so I hid myself. What Adam and Eve gained after disobeying the Lord that they did not have before was fear. Fear is what was absent from Adam and Eve in the garden. They were given instruction. They were given everything that they could have. They were given a life that anyone would desire. But what Adam and Eve did not have was the fear of the Lord. And because Adam and Eve did not have the fear of the Lord, they were able to be enticed by the serpent. Eve was able to be enticed by the serpent because she had no knowledge or understanding of the consequences of disobeying God. So listening to the serpent wasn't even that big of a deal. It wasn't even a major thing. Remember, Adam and Eve were in the garden and were told they could eat of all the fruit that was of the trees of the garden. They could interact and learn and partake in what other people were doing and learn their cultures and customs and understand it and still be able to be themselves. The one thing they were never supposed to do was learn the ways of the white man, was learn the ways of the serpent and how they lived and what they did. But without the fear of the Lord, Eve was able to consider what the serpent said and said, damn, he may be on to something. You understand? Why wasn't there a serpent present among any of the other trees? Again, because the other trees were not oppressive. They were not trying to impose themselves on Adam and Eve. They were not trying to fight about whose culture was right and wrong. You look today, we on the streets teaching the truth about the Bible, right? You know who doesn't fight with us about anything that we say? Asians, East Indians. Hell, even Africans don't fight with us. You know who fight with us? Christians and Muslims and Catholics. You want to know why? Because their culture because their belief is rooted in the ways and the culture of the white man, going all the way back in ancient times. That is why they fight and argue with us. You don't have Arab Muslims trying to argue with us about the truth that we teach. They don't care. It's European, not European, but it's Muslims who want to be accepted like Christianity is accepted that will argue with us and will fight with us. It's black people who have been raised Christian their whole life that argue with us and fight with us, because the religion, our oppressor, is an oppressive religion. These other cultures, these people are very happy keeping their culture to themselves. They want to keep their religion to themselves. The white man wants to spread his religion because his religion makes you a slave, because his religion allows him to take advantage of you and to molest your children and to take your wife and run trains on her and to have you as a man get bent over and grab your ankle so that you could get a contract. That is the tree that was in the midst of the garden. And the fruit of that tree was rebellion against God. And the Lord never wanted Adam and Eve to partake of that. You understand? And the serpent did his job in convincing Adam and Eve to go against the Lord and to join in the knowledge of the fruit of knowledge of the tree of good and evil. What Adam and Eve gained from that tree was fear. Because they disobeyed God, now they understood the knowledge of good and evil. The knowledge of good is if you do right, you ain't got nothing to be afraid of. The knowledge of evil is if you do wrong, there's fear of punishment. That fear was not present with Adam and Eve in the garden before they disobeyed the Lord. As soon as they disobeyed the Lord, Adam was afraid. He knew he was naked. Let's keep reading. Genesis chapter 2, verse 11. And he said, who told thee that thou was naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat? And the man said, the woman whom thou gavest to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. And the Lord God said unto the woman, what is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. So now, in fear, nobody wants to take accountability. In their fear, nobody wanted to be responsible. In their nakedness, nobody wanted to tell the truth about what happened. Everybody wanted to pass the buck. Adam, when he was confronted, should have said, I disobeyed you, Lord. I did what you told me not to do. I should have told my woman that it was wrong and I was wrong. Instead, Adam passed the buck to his woman. And the woman said, look, it wasn't me, the serpent beguiled me. And it angered the Lord that not only did they disobey him, they hid themselves by covering up with the covering of another nation. And then they blamed the other nation. Real quick, let's go back and show you that the evil that Adam and Eve did in covering themselves with those fig leaves is something that angered the Lord. All right, let's get on Isaiah chapter 30, verse 1. Get Isaiah 30 and 1. You understand? And Isaiah 30 and 1 is a precept for Genesis 3 and 7. You understand? The eyes of both of them were open and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. You understand? Isaiah 30 is a precept for that, for the evil that Adam and Eve did. Once becoming ashamed of their nakedness, they tried to hide themselves among the other peoples. Isaiah 30 and 1 says, woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin. It's one thing to rebel against God, to disobey him. It's another thing to hide, to try and pretend that you didn't do it, to pretend like nothing happened, nothing to see here. So how do you do that? How do you pretend that nothing happened? Imagine you in the truth and you know you can't have sex with white women. You go have sex with a white woman and leave the truth. You go back to being Christian, so you'll never have to face the school. It's wrong to deal with white women. You just fall out, never talk to nobody, never tell nobody what happened, and one day brothers see you with a white woman. And you added sin to sin. The sin was having sex with a white woman. Rather than you confessing and manning up and dealing with it, you leave the school and run back into the church. You add sin to sin. You understand? Imagine you in the truth and you go get high. You start getting high. You fall right back into addiction. Rather than you getting help and getting counsel and confessing your sin, you just go back in the world and just go back to being a drug addict. You add sin to sin. That's what Adam and Eve did. Adam and Eve sinned against the Lord and then just went all the way into it. Just turn their back on the truth. Turn their back on the Lord and follow his commandments and just try to blend in with everybody else. Guess what? You cannot blend in with everybody else once you've taken an oath to serve the Lord. The same way the Lord came and found Adam and Eve hiding in the garden, the Lord will come find you hiding in the garden today. He'll find you hiding among the trees. He'll find you hiding amongst these other nations. And it'll be a shameful, horrible thing. You understand? Adam at least confessed, man, I was afraid. I was naked. I hid. The Lord said, who told you was naked? Did you do the thing I told you not to do? Did you learn the thing I told you not to learn? Did you go and mix them up? Did you go among them people I told you to stay away from and learn their ways? And Adam said, it was the woman that you gave me that made me do it. And the woman, he said, woman, what the hell did you do? Man, look, the serpent came and told me that it was beautiful and wonderful. I got tricked up. That is not an excuse. That is not acceptable for someone to convince you that there's a way of life that's better than the way of the Lord. Shame on you. That's what Adam and Eve felt. That's the nakedness that they described after eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge, of the knowledge of good and evil. That fear brought on shame. And that shame made them hide themselves. You understand? Let's keep reading in Isaiah 30. This is Isaiah 30 and 2. That walk to go down into Egypt and have not asked at my mouth, to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame and the trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion. Joining themselves, putting on those fig leaves and covering themselves became the shame of Adam and Eve. Trusting in the strength of the tree in the midst of the garden became their confusion. You understand? And the Lord, when he came for them, they had to get right. You understand? So now, staying in Genesis 3 and 7, we understand now why they sewed the fig leaves together. But what is the difference in the nakedness that Adam and Eve experienced after sinning against the Lord than the nakedness they had before when they were in the truth, when they were doing what the Lord said to do, when they were holy, when they were set apart and naked, they were not ashamed. But now this nakedness, having joined themselves to the tree in the midst of the garden and partaken of the fruit, this shame made them know that they were naked and made them have to cover themselves up. What is the difference between the nakedness of being righteous and the nakedness of joining yourself to the other nations or joining yourself to the culture that is in rebellion against God? Let's get Lamentations chapter 1, verse 6. Let's get the book of Lamentations chapter 1. There is a nakedness that is righteous. In the Israelite school of UPK, we are naked in the sight of these other nations, meaning what? These other nations see our culture, see our way of life, see that everything that we believe in and everything that we do and say goes against all the acceptable norms of all society. But guess what? We are not ashamed. We are not ashamed to be holy. We are not ashamed to wear our fringes on our pants, to wear our headpieces in our garments. We are not ashamed to rock the shield of David. We're not ashamed to greet each other in our native tongue. Even though everybody looks at us funny, everybody says, man, what's going on with them? What they up to? What they got going on? You white people ask you all the time, you Shield of David, Star of David. You say, nah, it's the Shield of David, the Magun Dawadah. They ask you, are you Jewish? You say, nah, I'm an Israelite. Oh, okay, all right. We are not ashamed, even though we are exposed. All the nations see exactly what we are about. We don't have a problem showing it. Everybody understands. This is Salakia. Lamentations 1 and 6. Lamentations is after the book of Jeremiah, written by the prophet Jeremiah during the days of Jerusalem being sieged by the Babylonians. All right, so this is Lamentations chapter 1, verse 6. This is what Adam and Eve experienced in the garden. This is what they went through having sinned against the Lord and turned their back on the culture and the laws that he gave them as they sinned and hid themselves among the other nations. This is Lamentations 1 and 6. It says, and from the daughter of Zion, all her beauty is departed. Her princes are become like harts that find no pasture. A hart is a rabbit. Imagine a rabbit that don't find no safe place. What is that rabbit doing? It's bouncing. It's running around. You understand? And they are gone without strength from before the pursuer. They flee with no strength before any opposition. That's our people today. Our beauty has been tainted. Our strength is gone, and we run from everything. We don't have any leg to stand on. We don't have a solid foundation. You understand? Verse 7, Jerusalem remembered in the days of her affliction, of her miseries, all her pleasant things that she had in the days of old, when her people fell into the hand of the enemy, and none did help her. The adversary saw her and did mock at her Sabbaths. Jerusalem has grievously sinned, therefore is she removed. All that honored her despise her, because they have seen her nakedness. Yea, they sigheth and turneth backward. You understand? The shame, the nakedness that Adam and Eve experienced after joining themselves to the tree in the midst of the garden is the same shame you feel when you go back into the world, when you go back into sinning. Or it's the shame for all of us when we woke up to the truth. The thing you have to fight through to come into the truth is the shame that for so many years you believed a lie. The shame of, damn, I can't believe that I really was a Christian. I really ate pork and shrimp. And some of you really was a homosexual. Some of you really was a lesbian. You really was some of you was selling vagina. You really was out there selling vaginas. You brothers, you really was out there. I'm going to say we was selling vagina, Salakia. We were getting high. We were buying prostitutes. We was homosexuals. We did all the evil things that the world said to do. And then you learn the truth and you look back and you are ashamed that the things you've done. You are ashamed. And how could I ever have believed that that was acceptable? How could I ever have believed that that was the way to go? How could I ever have trusted that that was okay? Well, that was the shame that Adam and Eve felt. They were in the garden, looked around and realized, damn, we played ourselves, man. We were special. We were unique. We were beautiful. We were different than everybody else. Now look at us, doing what everybody else is doing. And it's a shame. And in the midst of that shame, you don't want to just, you don't want to just be another nigga. You don't want to just be another, drug addict. You don't want to be just another homosexual. You don't want to be just another victim of sexual trauma that you never healed from. And that's why a lot of people, when they come to that point, they go into the church, they try to find some way to clean themselves up. The only way to really get clean is to come into the truth. Adam and Eve were in the truth, left it, and joined themselves to other nations and their cultures. And then they realized that they had done something horrible and it was shameful. And when the Lord came for Adam and Eve, they had to answer for the wrong that they'd done. And understand this, the same way the Lord came for Adam and Eve after they joined themselves to the other nations and they learned what they were not supposed to learn, the Lord came for them. The Lord is going to come for you too if you leave the truth. You think you're going to leave the truth and this is going to be okay? Now the Lord going to come for you. The Lord is going to remind you of the glory that you lost, remind you of the truth that you turned your back on. I'll tell a quick story, man. Recently, I was in Nashville. I never thought of it this way until now. Recently, a few months ago, I was in Nashville, and there's a brother that used to be in the truth that left the truth. You understand? And this brother, we saw this brother. We was out there in Nashville. We was at a parade. We was all together, all of us and the brothers. And we seen the brother, and the brother seen us. And the brother walked by. The brother could have did anything. He could have said, "Shalom, Akim, hey, what's going on, y'all? How y'all doing?" Or he could have just said nothing. He could have just walked by and said nothing. But the brother passed by all of us and said, "Israelites, Israelites," and kept walking. And I saw the brother walking, coming up. I don't know if anybody else saw him, but I saw him coming up. I saw him get by us. I heard him say, "Israelites, Israelites," and I watched him walk on down the block. And it was amazing to me because the man that I knew was a brother who was a stand-up cat. This cat, he had some manhood about him. This brother that I knew, he would see us and say, "Shalom, Akim, what's going on?" And when the brother walked by and said, "Israelites, Israelites," I knew that there was a shame inside of him that he could not face us. He could not look us in our eyes. He could not stop and say shalom. He had to find some way to, break the ice. And that's what that was the Lord coming for him. Seeing us that day and him not being with us and not being a part of this anymore and not having that spirit he had, that was that shame that Adam and Eve felt. I know that brother felt it that day. And I pray the Lord keep my spirit strong that I never would experience that. But that has to be a horrible feeling. Has to be a horrible thing to know that you were in the truth and you did something evil and fell out of the truth. And rather than trying to get right, you just went back into whatever you went back into. And now the Lord shows up looking for you and you have to say, "I was afraid and I hid myself." You understand? Adam and Eve sinned grievously against the Lord. And they were reminded of the former glory that they had and had to look at the horror that they had brought upon themselves, having turned against the Lord, and they exposed themselves. They used to be special, used to be unique, used to be Adam and Eve were a man and woman that took a stand against the evil of the world, wouldn't partake in the cruelty and the wickedness of these other nations. Then so the serpent beguiled Eve and they jumped into the world. Then the Lord came looking for them and they had to deal with the transgression, deal with their evil. And the way that they had to deal with it is because of fear. Fear is what saved Adam and Eve after they sinned against the Lord. You understand? And it is fear, which is the gift that the Lord gave us after Adam and Eve. Because of the shame and the nakedness that Adam and Eve experienced sinning against the Lord gave them fear to bring them back in. But let's get some more scriptures on this nakedness, all right? To drive home the point, Adam and Eve, after they sinned, were naked and ashamed, so they covered themselves. That naked and ashamed is what we feel being in the world. Before you come into the truth, you are naked and ashamed being a part of the white man's culture, doing the things that they say are acceptable. And when you come into the truth, you have to let the shame of who you were cause you to be born again. You can't carry that shame and be who you are in the truth. You have to become someone brand new. You have to be born again. You have to become someone who looks at that old life you lived and said, "Yeah, man, I was disgusting. I was filthy. I was a horrible person." Some of us are still fighting with that old person. Some of us aren't completely disgusted with how we used to live. Some of us miss it. Some of us miss that old life. It was fun. Getting high and hoes and, homosexuality and prostitutes and Epstein parties. Some of you miss it. You better fight it out. Fight that thing that makes you miss being in the world. Fight that thing that is still trying to convince you that that tree in the midst of the garden is one to make you wise and like a god. That white man's world is so enticing. Oh, you can get money, you can have wealth with wealth, and with money, you could get any woman you want. You could just go ahead and buy you some vagina. I'm in the ISUB Canada Commanding General, Your Honor. I could be a millionaire tomorrow. You know what I would never do is buy a bitch. The hell I look like paying some hoe to be my girl. Bitch, what? I'm a priest and captain of the Lord in the ISUPK. If that don't impress you, bitch, then I don't want to deal with you. I don't want some hoe that wouldn't deal with me when I was broke and working at FedEx. Why would I get some money and now deal with a bitch that would be okay with me being in the truth and having more than one wife now that I got some money? Some of you want to get money badly so you could go buy some bad bitch. Brother, it might seem like it's wonderful. It is not. I know some of y'all y'all watch them bread popping balloon videos and you be like, damn, they be carrying them cats on there. It is and that. And some of you look at these women on the internet and you be like, yeah, but if I had some money, she'd be on me. Brother, there is no thing in life that is more empty feeling than knowing that a woman is dealing with you for money. I mean, it is a horrible thing. It's one of the things that I remember the most from the world. I've been fat my whole life. I remember being fat and women would not look at me. I always was dressed good, smelled good, always could talk. But I remember being fat and not having money, and bitches looked at me like, nigga, never in a million years. Then I got some money and was the nigga on the VIP on the stage, and the hoes was there. I had my pick of the litter. And I remember just feeling gross and disgusting, feeling empty, like, damn. I mean, is it that simple? Is that really what this world is about? It's just if you got the money, you can have it. That's horrible, empty, gross, and I can't describe it. Some of you never experienced it, and you're naked, and you should not be ashamed. You should not be ashamed of never having experienced that life, because trust me, it is a horrible fucking life. Some of you brothers, you in the truth and you single. You don't have a woman, and you haven't met a woman yet that would hear the truth and would accept it. Brother, the Lord is sparing you. Any woman you meet, that will not be with you while you in the truth, that will not struggle with you, that will not fight with her family, to not celebrate holidays, that will not give up pork and shrimp. Any woman that would not give up, her check to let you be the man and make the decisions in the house, brother, that is not a woman that you want to waste your energy on. You don't want to fall in love with a woman like that. It's the Lord is sparing you, and we don't see it that way. We don't see the Lord is sparing us. All we see is all the sex we can't have. You don't see that bitch was a monster and was evil and would destroy you. You just look at it like, damn, these hoes don't want me. The Lord is sparing you, brother, with all them women that don't want you. Do not be ashamed that they don't want you. Do not feel bad that they don't want you. You have to realize that they don't qualify. They aren't on your level. They are not awoke and spiritual enough to see that you are the man that any woman would die for, would kill to have. You have to know that you are great, and the people who don't recognize it, it's because they are in a deep sleep. They are blind. There's nothing wrong with you. There's everything wrong with the world. And everything that you desire that you can't have, the Lord is helping you. The Lord is protecting you. Stop looking at things that don't go your way in this life as though you lost something or you missed out on something. Nah, the Lord protected you, man. I know she was pretty and she got a good job and educated and she smelled good and all the things you like in a woman. You talked to this woman for 3 months, got to know her. She was good. Everything was wonderful. She wouldn't accept that you already had a wife. She wanted you to, leave your wife to be with her. So you couldn't be with her. And you look at it like, damn, I missed out, man. She was a good woman. No, she was not. That bitch was a monster. And there was something in that woman that the Lord did not want you to have to suffer to be with her. So the Lord made it to not work. Barakatah Yahweh Yahweh Shah. Thank the Most High in Christ for protecting you from that woman. Some of you sisters in here, I know you come in the truth and you want a husband, man. You single and you want a good man and you've been in this truth for years and nobody's courted you. Nobody's asked for you. A couple brothers you may have wanted that didn't work out. I know you might feel like, damn, nobody wants me. And you might feel like, that brother didn't go my way. The Lord spared you because that brother was not going to love you the way that you needed to be loved. I know you looked at that brother and he's amazing and you see he got his other wives, but guess what? He loved those women. He dealt with them right. He would have got you and not cared about you. He would have not been the man that you needed in your life. And you might have got with that man and not been treated the way that you wanted and would have left the truth. Some of you sisters, the Lord is keeping you in the truth by not letting you have a husband. Because you're going to get a husband and think it's supposed to be one way and it's not going to be that way. And because you can't have your way, you're going to leave the marriage and leave the truth. The Lord is sparing some of you women. You need the knowledge of God. You do not need the knowledge of Rod. You understand? Some of you women, you don't need penis in your life because that penis in your life is going to turn you into another person. You need more time to be the woman that God called you to be. Some of you women are married to a man and you think there's a better man out there. No, there's not. That man that you married to, that you argue with and you're not happy with sometimes, guess what? At least the nigga didn't leave you. He's still there. You should be thankful you have a man. You women that have a man and get frustrated and angry with your man, just go online and look at all of the bitches saying, where the good men at? Where the men that are, talk to you and laugh at your jokes? I read horror things on the internet from women just making a post. They think it's just, it's just a safe space. I could just share what I'm feeling. And it's sad. It's, I seen a woman post today on Threads. The broad said, I don't think any man I've ever been with actually liked me or enjoyed my company. I think they just kept me around because it was convenient. And I replied to the woman's comment. I replied to the post, maybe there's nothing there to like. Like, not everybody is cool and fun to be around. Some people are unbearable, but you just deal with them because, they make you feel good. There are women who do not have a man, can't keep a man. Now, there's some niggas that have sex. Another thing I see women talking about on the internet all day is getting their back cracked. It's horrible to read a woman say, I have not had my back cracked in 2 years. It's a lock-in. This is the world. This is the shame that the Lord never wanted Adam and Eve to know of. There are women right now on the internet declaring to the earth, I ain't had my back cracked. I wish there was a man that I knew that wanted me more than just cracking my back, but I really just want my back cracked. Your man who you argue with and fight, guess what? If you just go apologize, if you make that nigga a plate, guess what he'll do? He'll come crack your back. Now, you might argue and fight again in 2 days, but at least he'll come do the cracking. There's women that don't even have a nigga to come do the cracking. Or they give it up to a man and he don't crack it right. He don't crack it good. He don't even crack. Before the cracking even starts, it get a creak and he's done. And now she got to go, wash herself off and then she never hear from him again. God damn. Some of you women, you in the truth and you have not been married yet. It is good for you. Thank the Lord. Because it is better to be unmarried than to be married to someone who's not going to deal with you right. Now, if you're patient, if you learn how to be kind and learn how to be quiet, if you learn how to be a daughter that pleases the Lord, then he'll deliver you a man. You understand? Some of you brothers, there's a lot of sisters that come in here and they learn the truth, but their desires are still carnal. They want the big, tall, strong cat that they see, on the screen all the time, teaching everywhere, and that's cool. They could go have that brother. They could have him. He's got he got 50 wives, and they'll be 51, and they are going to be miserable and play themselves because they thought that being the 51st wife was better than being some brother's first wife, and they'll play themselves and think that, what they think? They think that, well, he just ain't had this vagina yet. I know he got 7 wives, but he gonna get this 8th wife vagina and his life gonna change. He's gonna be with me all day. And then they get with him and he's a wonderful man, an amazing brother. He cracked that back. Good. Deal with him, talk to him, teach him, but then he'll be home in 2 months. And you just got to wait for 2 months before he come back around. And guess what? It'll be like that forever. You chose a man, that good man, gonna crack that back, but he'll see you once every 2 months. You could have chose a brother who would be there every day, but he might not be the cat with the notoriety and the prestige and all of that. Brother, you see a woman that you want and she don't want you and she choose something else, just know the Lord spared you. The Lord helped you out. And listen, I've been in the truth for some time. I used to have a woman that I know for a fact scared other women off. And I used to feel like, damn, I could have had this. Man, she wanted me. I know I could have had her if it wasn't for this woman I got. Every single woman that I've ever felt about in the truth that did not choose me because of the wife that I had, none of those women are in the truth now. None of them. And I'm talking about in my years in the truth, it's been like 6 of them. I know she wanted me. She's watching my classes all the time, chiming in every time it's the event. She's Shalom, Captain. And my rib used to be like, yeah, I know she like you. And I used to be like, man, shut your ass up. She's like, yeah, you go ahead and marry her if you want to. She gonna have to take care of you, do this and that. And I used to be like, well, so what? But you know what I'm saying? None of those women ever put in the request. I never courted them, nothing like that. So to me, it was just, Most High in Christ, right? Sister come in, she get married, Lord be with her. None of those women are in the truth today. Which to me, the Lord spared me. Because why would I have wanted to go through all the things that a man goes through to make a woman his wife and to commit to forever for a bitch to leave for whatever reason? I don't care why you leave a nigga. It ain't valid. You understand? And these men in the UPK are honorable. We don't abuse women. We don't hit women. You understand? Your children are protected and all of that. You leaving a man because he don't come around enough? Did you know that before you married him? Did you know that he was busy and on the road all the time and he had prior responsibilities? You thought that he was going to get with you and that was going to stop? You thought he was going to marry you and then move to your city and live with you? Why the hell would he do that? He got responsibilities in his other city across the earth. Why would he come and live and move in with you? Or you thought that once you had sex with him, his life was going to change, that your vagina was going to open some magical box in his life to where, oh man, I got to go live there now. Are you, bitch, you retarded? Who told you that? What class did you learn that in? What council session did you have where you said, well, sir, surely I know the brother's busy all the time and he told me how much he got going on, but once I have sex with him, won't he just drop all that and come and move with me? No, no, that's not going to happen. So the woman get disillusioned and she get frustrated and she leave the truth. Sisters, if you're single and you haven't been chosen yet, thank the Lord. Because it is better to be in the truth and be unchosen than to marry a brother and it don't work and you leave the truth. You understand? Brothers, it is better to be in the truth and be unmarried than to marry some broad who tries to ruin your life. And because you won't change for her, she leave you. And now it's better to have not loved than to have loved and lost. Trust me. It's better to remain single in the truth till the right woman come along than to marry the wrong broad and you get a sample. You get a taste of what it's like to have a woman at home cooking and cleaning and looking all good and smelling good. And then you got to go back to just you in that crib and them boots and those braids with no broad around. Damn that. Salakia. I got on a tangent, went off, but we're right back where Adam and Eve were naked and ashamed. All right, let's get Ezekiel chapter 16. We're going to go to verse 35. All right, it's Ezekiel 16 and 35, speaking of the shame of Adam and Eve having sinned against the Lord. You understand? This is the shame and the nakedness that they experienced. That nakedness is shame. That nakedness was them knowing that they did something horrible and now they would be looked at as filthy and disgusting. And that is how we are when we are joined to our oppressor, joined to the tree in the midst of the garden that the Lord told us not to eat the fruit of, all right? It's Ezekiel 16 and 35. It says, wherefore, O harlot, hear the word of the Most High. Thus saith the Most High Power, because thy filthiness was poured out, and thy nakedness discovered through thy whoredoms with thy lovers, and with all the idols of thy abominations, and by the blood of thy children which thou did give unto them. Behold, therefore, I will gather all thy lovers with whom thou hast taken pleasure, and all them that thou hast loved, with all them that thou hast hated. I will even gather them round about against thee, and will discover thy nakedness unto them, that they may see all thy nakedness. You understand? This is what happened to Adam and Eve in the garden. Their shame was exposed. They were shown to be something that they were not. They was at one point they were holy. At one point they were righteous. At one point they were naked to the world these other nations lived in. They didn't understand that culture. They didn't know that way of life. They didn't know the joy and the pleasures of worshiping their gods and participating in their ceremonies. Then Adam and Eve went and joined themselves and did the evil and the evil, horrible things that God warned them about doing, and they realized this is a horrible life. And they were ashamed and they were naked, and their nakedness was exposed to all the heathens they joined themselves to. And then the Lord came back and said, man, where are you? What are you doing? And Adam said, man, I heard you, Lord, and I was naked and I was afraid and I hid myself. You understand? The best thing that Adam could have done was acknowledge to the Lord that he was naked, that he had hid himself. And when the Lord came down and brought judgment down on Adam and Eve, they took that judgment and they accepted it. And they learned from this evil that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The fear of the Lord is where you begin to understand that life is better when you just do what God says. Because a life where you don't do what God says is a horrible life, and nobody wants to live like that. Salakia. Couple more scriptures on this shame. All right, this nakedness. Let's get Ezekiel 23 and 29. Ezekiel 23 and 29. It reads, and they shall deal with thee hatefully, and shall take away all thy labor, and shall leave thee naked and bare. And the nakedness of thy whoredom shall be discovered, both thy lewdness and thy whoredoms. You understand? Let's drop that. Let's get Deuteronomy 28 and 48. We are living in the shame that Adam and Eve experienced in the garden, being joined to our oppressor, believing their religion, following their way of life, following their customs, doing the things that they say that are acceptable, getting high, being homosexuals, abusing children, neglecting our children, not facing our traumas from the past, pretending to live as though everything is okay when you're miserable and suffering and dying inside. That is not a life fit for anybody. That is a life of shame and nakedness that God wants to deliver us from, but we have to come to him and accept his covering. We have to accept being holy and being naked to these other nations so that we can be righteous with the Lord. You understand? Deuteronomy 28 and 48. The Lord said that we were going to suffer in this land of our oppressors in one of all things and in nakedness because of our disobedience to the Most High. You understand? Deuteronomy 28 from verse 15 to 68 are the punishments that God said would befall the children of Israel if we disobeyed him. These are one of those things that the Lord said we would suffer. Deuteronomy 28 and 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he has destroyed thee. You understand? That's the condition that blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians are in today. Because we have disobeyed the Lord, because we have not come back to being who he called us to be, we serve our enemies in want of all things, in hunger and thirst and in nakedness. Meaning what? We don't have any shame. You understand? We'll do anything for money. Do anything. Women will go to Dubai and get defecated on. Women will sell their vagina. Men will, Lil Nas X put on a goddamn bikini and dropped down a stripper pole in hell and gave Satan a lap dance so he could have a record contract. That shit crazy even saying it, bro. That's what happened. So that he could be rich and he could be famous and he could have some money, Lil Nas X put on a bikini and slid down a stripper pole to give Satan a lap dance and then let the whole world see it on the video. So he can get an award nomination, get a record contract payment. Shame. Being exposed. You understand? Drop that. Let's get Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7. What happens after the shame? What happens after the sin and you are embarrassed and you come back to the Lord? What happened to Adam and Eve after they sinned in the garden? And the Lord came and visited them and they acknowledged that they did evil and did wrong. The Lord gave them a punishment. And with that punishment, they now had the knowledge of good and evil. And they had the knowledge of the consequences that come from disobeying God. You understand? And what coupled with that knowledge was fear of the Lord. Now they knew why they should have just obeyed. They didn't know to be afraid of disobeying the Lord. But now that they disobeyed, they knew that fear is what they should was what was going to keep them to obeying him going forward. You understand? This is Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7. It says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. You understand? You want to be somebody who knows something, know that you should fear the God. Know that you should do what God said to do, because if you don't, punishment is what you're facing. And you should be afraid of the punishment. If you are afraid of the punishment, then you'll do what God said to do. Everybody understand? But fools despise wisdom and instruction. Drop that, get Isaiah chapter 11. Salaki, I get all this buzzing on my computer. Bear with me. Hold up. Salaki, I'm going to turn this off. Come on, bro. Bear with me, y'all. Hold on. All right, there we go. All right. This is Isaiah chapter 11, verse 2. Isaiah chapter 11 and 1. It's Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1. This is a prophecy concerning Christ, the time that we're in now. Isaiah 11 and 1. And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. And the spirit of the Most High shall rest upon him, the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord. You come and learn the truth of the Most High. You come and learn the truth about Christ. You're going to learn why you should fear the Lord. And it is that fear of the Lord that is going to propel you to righteousness. It's going to propel you to do everything the Lord said to do. Why? Because if you don't, horror and hell and everything horrible follows it. And that is why the greatest gift that the Most High, in this time we're living in, the greatest gift that we have in the ISUPK and the Commanding General Yohana is the knowledge of the truth, which is what gives you the fear of the Lord. It's what makes brotherhood the number one priority. You understand? It's what makes us do everything the Lord said to do. All of us have lived a life in the world. We know what's out there. It's a horrible place. All of us in the truth, you know what you were delivered from. You know what your life was like before the truth. You know the things you were doing and the things you believed and what you accepted. And to think about going back to that should make you afraid. And that fear is what is going to keep you serving the Lord, because God forbid I go back to what I was in the world. I can't do that. I can't do that. This is all I got. And every one of us have to feel that way, or else you'll go back. You understand? You get Isaiah chapter 33, verse 6. Isaiah 33 and 6. Isaiah 33 and 6 says, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure. The greatest gift that we have in today's time is the fear of the Lord. To know what happens if we dare turn our back on the Most High. And you should be strengthened by that fear. Don't fear the white man. Don't fear what people are going to say about you if you stop celebrating Christmas. Don't fear how your family going to look at you if you marry a man who believes in having more than one wife. Don't worry about what your job is going to think of you if you start wearing dresses and you stop putting weave in your hair and you start, rocking the shield of David. Don't you be afraid of that. Be afraid of the Lord and what he'll do to you if you don't put on the righteousness, if you don't become holy and stand proudly before these other nations. The Lord, you can't be no secret Israelite. Now, you ain't got to go teaching everybody. You ain't got to go saying the white man the devil at your job, but you better wear your fringes out. You better rock that shield of David, sis. You better put them earrings on and that headpiece, that head covering, and you better glorify being a sister that serves the Lord. Don't be trying to hide it and ashamed of it. Christ said, whoever's ashamed of me in this wicked generation, I'm going to be ashamed before my Father when I come. You better be proud to be in the truth. You better wear your culture like the Arab wear his culture. You better wear your culture like a Christian wears his culture. You better wear your culture like a Buddhist wear their culture. Stand for the Lord and be damned who cares about it or who feels some kind of way. Let's drop that. Let's get 1 John chapter 4, verse 18. 1 John chapter 4, verse 18. As we go into 1 John chapter 4, remember, love is keeping the commandments of God. Love is an action in the Bible. It's a verb. What is love? Love is that we keep the commandments. You understand? So as we read about love, love and fear go hand in hand. You cannot be afraid to love. And if you have love, then you cannot be afraid. Everybody understand? This is 1 John chapter 4, verse 18. It says, there is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear has torment. He that fears is not made perfect in love. We love him because he first loved us. What is that talking about? This is not talking about the fear of the Lord. This is talking about the fear of loving the Lord. You're afraid to love the Most High. You're afraid to really do what the Lord said to do. You're afraid to really become who God called you to be. Why? Because of what people are going to think, because of what my mama going to say and what my friends going to feel. Shame on you for putting the fear of people before the fear of God. If you love God, you will obey him. If you love God, you will do what he said to do. If you love God, you won't celebrate Valentine's Day. You won't celebrate the 4th of July. You won't celebrate Christmas. You won't celebrate Halloween. You won't celebrate, what else they got going? St. Patrick's Day. You ashamed of what people are going to think about you if you don't put on green for St. Patrick's Day? Shame on you. You should stand with the Lord and do what he said to do. You ashamed to go to the Passover. You ashamed to tell people, nah, man, I'm being in Houston on August 4th because I'm going to the Passover in the ISUPK and the Commanding General Yohana. You're afraid to do what the Bible says in Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, which is on the 14th day of the first month. Gather with your brothers and sisters and remember the Lord's Passover. It's shame on you, man. Do what the Lord said to do. Perfect love. Let's read it again. 1 John 4 and 18. There is no fear in love. If you love the Lord, what you afraid of? Not a goddamn thing. You understand? But perfect love casts out fear. If you're righteous, if your love for the Most High is perfect, then you won't be afraid of anything that could happen. Because fear has torment. Fear of the white man and fear of this society and this world will torment you. It will torment you to try to live this life, but be afraid of what people are going to think or what people are going to say. Damn what they think or what they say. Don't torment yourself. You think the Lord called you out of the world to come into the truth, to learn the truth about him and to live the life he called you to live, for you to be tormented by what people think of you, for you to be tormented by who might leave your life or who might turn their back on you. If somebody turns their back on you for serving the Lord, then damn them. Their love for you is not genuine. It's not real. Anybody that would not be happy and proud of you for giving your life to the Lord and obeying him, damn them. They are not good for your life anyway. Fear has torment. You understand? He that fears is not made perfect in love. You can't be righteous if you're afraid of what serving the Lord is going to cost you. 1 John 4 and 19. We love him because he loved us first. Verse 20. If a man say, I love God and hates his brother, he is a liar. For he that loves not his brother whom he has seen, how can he love God whom he has not seen? Verse 21, and this commandment have we from him, that he who also loves God loves his brother also. That's a scripture that's cut some of you sisters. Some of you sisters so goddamn selfish and wanting a man all to yourself. What about all these single women out here? What about all these women that can't find a man? You think you deserve to never have to share your man. You think you deserve a man to love you and only you? How selfish are you? Think of your man and think of how he loves you and he been there for you and he watch over you and take care of you and he do the things that a man has to do to love a woman. And you withhold that from another woman because you stingy, because you selfish, because you don't share. You a bitch and a monster. Shame on you for not allowing that man's greatness to be experienced by another woman. You hate other women so much that you don't want a woman that's single and miserable to experience a good man like you. What did you do to deserve to have a good man that this other woman can't have no man? She got to go without a man because you got a good man and you don't want nobody else to have him. Some of you women better check your spirit because the Lord going to give that man to all the women. He going to make sure that man get 3-4 more women that are better than you. You should just go ahead and let him have one. You willingly serve that man up to a woman that is deserving. You go bring that woman into the truth and teach her about the love, the wonderful love of God. And there's a beautiful, amazing man you have. And let that man decide if he want to be with that woman and you deal with it. Or else the time going to come, the Lord going to make sure he get 4 other women that's better than you. And you're going to sit around and look at these 4 women that don't even know you, ain't got no kind of relationship with you, might not even like you. And you're going to have to just deal with it. One way or another, the Lord said we're going to keep his commandments. You think you special. Everybody, all these other women got to share their husbands. They got to keep the Lord's commandments. A man can have more than one woman. But you the one special bitch that don't got to share your man. Shame on you. The Lord going to make sure that brother get wives. And it's going to be a glorious, wonderful thing. You understand? Drop that one more scripture to close out the class and to bring full circle the shame and the nakedness that Adam and Eve felt in the garden. In the end, when we fulfill the requirements that the Lord has given to us to bring the kingdom of heaven and to have our King Christ return and to set the earth in order, this is the end result. There was a time that we were naked, that we were ashamed. There was a time in the garden where Adam and Eve knew that they had done wrong and felt naked and tried to cover themselves with fig leaves because of the tree that was in the midst of the garden. But there's a time coming where that tree that was in the midst of the garden is going to experience what Adam and Eve experienced. And we are in that time now. The Lord is revealing the truth about our oppressor, and they are ashamed. You understand? They are afraid. Them Epstein files and the evil in the government and all the things that are being uncovered, they know that we can see them for who they are, and they don't like it. And it's going to increase. And the day when Christ returns, all of the records of the history of the earth are going to be laid bare. And the shame of this oppressor is going to be what covers them. Right now, they're covered in glory and with power and strength and influence over the earth. There is a shame that is coming that is going to cover them. You understand? Let's get Isaiah chapter 47. Read verse 1, then we're going to go to the book of Obadiah. All right. It's Isaiah chapter 47, verse 1. It says, "Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate." Who is the daughter of Babylon? Who is the daughter of the Chaldeans? It's America. It's the Western powers of this earth today. It's the white man. You understand? The white man is the virgin daughter of Babylon. The white man was the serpent in the Garden of Eden. The tree in the midst of the garden of the knowledge of the good and evil was the culture and the way of life of our oppressor. It's the culture and the way of life of the serpent. And they make it seem as though joining them would make you wise and would make you rich, and it's a wonderful life. But then you join them and you get molested. You join them and your children get sex trafficked. You join them and the men are bending over and grabbing their ankles and the women are being shared. You understand? Like a I don't know, like something gay men share. You join your oppressor and experience everything horrible, drug addiction and, violence in relationships. All horrible things come from being joined to our oppressor and their culture. But there's a day coming where they're going to be told to sit and come down from their high seat. Verse 2, take the millstones and grind meal, uncover thy locks, make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers, meaning they're going to have to go on the run. And they're not going to be delicate and tender and beautiful in that day. They're going to be like fugitives on the run. You understand? Verse 3, thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man. The Lord said that their shame and their nakedness is going to be uncovered. Epstein files is a part of that shame and that nakedness being uncovered. Bill Gates giving his wife an STD and then talking about the little girls, the young women that they liked at these parties. That is so shameful to these rich, powerful people. They thought they would hide and live in the darkness forever. Not when there's a power in the universe that said that what is done in darkness is going to come to light. The light is beginning to shine. And as we continue to stand in the truth and stand in the righteousness of the Lord, that light is going to cover everything. And all the things that have been hidden and in the dark, they will be exposed. You understand? Drop that. Let's get Obadiah. I believe it's verse 8 or 10, and then we'll close out the class, all right? Again, these things that you're learning in the Israelite School of UPK, you're not going to learn nowhere else. You never get this breakdown and get this understanding anywhere. You understand? It is the Most High that has revealed this truth to his priests, the prophets, and the Lord has allowed us today to be able to deliver it to those who are seeking and searching to find the truth. This is Obadiah chapter 10. It says, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. Who is this talking to? This is talking to Edom. Let's just get it. Obadiah chapter 1. Well, Obadiah is just one chapter, but verse 1 in Obadiah. The vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord God concerning Edom. Who's Edom? The forefather of the white man. Edom is the white race. God says, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee. You understand? Shame is what's coming for our oppressor, for the evil that they've done against us and done in the earth. And their culture and their way of life is rebellion against the Most High. And it is the consequences of rebellion against the Most High that God never wanted for Adam and Eve to learn, which is why he told them not to eat of the fruit that was in the midst of the tree. That was in the tree in the midst of the garden. And that fruit was the knowledge of the culture and the way of life of our oppressor. Adam and Eve left the truth and dabbled in sin and were shamed and naked for it. And the Lord punished them. And that fear that Adam and Eve learned after disobeying the Lord is the fear that we need today to do the right thing, to be righteous, to serve the Most High, and to be the people that he called us to be. With that, we're the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge out of 1 West 125th Street in Harlem, New York. Since 1969, we have been teaching so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians the truth according to the Bible. What is the truth? The truth is that so-called Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians descend from the greatest people that have ever walked the face of the earth. The Bible identifies us as the lost 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. And in the year 2026, there is nothing more important than for God's chosen people to learn the truth of who we are, where we come from, and what our purpose is on the earth. All you brothers and sisters tuning in, if you got family, loved ones, people you care about in Memphis, Tennessee, and surrounding areas, get them in contact with the ISUPK. We got a Passover coming up April 4th, man. Pay your tithes and support the truth. You know, be who the Lord called you to be. Partake in the things the Lord commanded us to partake in, and experience what life is like when you can be holy and not ashamed of it. With that, I'll see y'all for class tomorrow. Shalom, Israel.